Hi, welcome to Empower Together today. I am your host, Desiree Parker, and I'm super excited to have with me today Stephen Courson. Stephen is the founder of the True Wealth Experience, and he teaches financial wellness and lifestyle design. So I'm going to keep it at that and let Stephen explain what exactly lifestyle design is and a little better of an explanation of financial wellness for those of us who aren't finance people.
Well, I'm super excited to be here with you today. I know
Thank you.
we've kind of chatted over the virtual channels for a little bit, so thanks for having me on.
Hmm. Absolutely. I'm so excited.
No, it's yeah, financial wellness. A lot of people think that it's synonymous with okay, is that just personal finance? And it is, but it's a little bit more of an expanded concept, I would say. Personal finance in
Hmm.
general is really just focused on the numbers, whereas financial wellness is exactly what it sounds like. It's more about the overall element of your wellness. So the things that I would say, to where I would, a quick example would be like I'm married. So personal finance
Hmm.
would just be me doing a budget, checking out my investments, whatever the case is. Financial wellness
Sure.
would be making sure that I am going over those things with my wife because she doesn't really pay attention to the money. She doesn't want to pay attention to the money. One of the reasons she married me,
Uh,
she was like, "Wait, you're going to take over the money stuff? That's great." Or it's like,
yes.
but it's important that she is aware of things. So we just meet once a month at the end of the month and go over the state of things just so she can feel secure. She knows where everything is. God forbid if
Yes.
I was becoming incapacitated somehow and she needed to be able to get and stuff. There's way too many examples of where, whether
Sure.
it's the wife or the husband, whoever it was that handles the finances, the other one didn't know where anything was. And it just creates a lot of problems
Hmm.
times that are usually already stressful. So that's
Sure.
just one quick example of kind of like an expanded definition of what financial wellness is. How
Hmm.
are you, relating to your spouse if you're married or your partner, uh,
Yeah.
along with some other things. And then lifestyle design,
Creating security.
exactly. And then lifestyle design is something that is a relatively new concept. I called it lifestyle strategy, and I still kind of do sometimes because I've
Hmm.
kind of married the two concepts together a little bit because I found both of them a little lacking. And
Okay.
it's a much more recent um, term, I guess you could say. And the reason I came across it was actually reading an article by a therapist. And it was
Okay.
a great clickbait article. I still remember it to this day. It said, I'm a millennial therapist, and 95% of my clients all have the same issue. And I'm like, you got me. So, uh,
Okay. Yeah.
so I was like, well, you got me. Let me go and check out what's going on here. So I went and I said, okay, reading through the article, seeing everything that they're talking about, and then I saw it and I went, okay, this is revolutionary. And what it was she was talking about was that everybody is struggling with too many options. And
Hmm.
it took her a while to get to the point. She was talking about dating, she was talking about like eating out, all these other things. And I was like, where is she going with this? And then she just hit you with this. She said, the things that all of these have in common is that people are stressed out with the amount of options they have. And I was like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, that's so true. So when you think about it, you sit down at night, you've had a long day at work. What do you want to do? You want to sit down and like maybe watch a show. So you get on one of the tons of different streaming apps. Then you have to scroll through an endless amount of options. And then you have to decide
Yes.
whether or not you want to commit to a new movie or a new TV show. Well, there's already 5 seasons out. So do I want to commit to the 5 seasons if I get into this thing?
Yeah.
Or am I just going to end up with something that I know I already like and am comfortable with? And that's just one decision that becomes many decisions we have to make in your average
Yes.
night. Then you have dinner. Who do I date? Who do I marry? What kind of job do I have? Where do I want to live? Yada, yada. So
Yeah.
that is where
Decision fatigue.
decision fatigue. Exactly. So that's where
Yes.
lifestyle strategy or lifestyle design really comes into play because there's a saying in business that says, show me someone who doesn't have a strategy and I'll show you somebody who can't make decisions. Well, the same
Mm.
thing plays out in our personal lives. If you don't have a plan, then you're just going to be bombarded with all these different options, and it's hard to decide what's best for you. So that's really kind of the heart at the problems that they're supposed to solve.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. because I can definitely understand that, and coming from a mental health perspective and background, um, I could on and not, I'm not like right between millennial and Gen X. I'm like this weird lost little like
You're,
sometimes I fit into one,
they call
sometimes
us
I fit into the
Zennials.
other.
I'm the same as you. Yeah.
So yeah, so I definitely relate to that though, because at the end of the day it's like, please do not make me make one more decision. I don't care what we have for dinner. I don't care what we watch on TV. Don't ask me any more questions. I don't want to decide. you know
It's the truth.
and that was more true when I was working, uh for my last position. I was a program director for a large nonprofit, and when your whole day is bombarded with staff asking you questions, and and making decisions about things, your brain is fried by the end of the day.
Totally.
um,
There's a
but
reason that you hear these, it sounds ridiculous, but like, these Mark Zuckerberg types. And it's like, well, why do you wear the same clothes every day? And he's like, it's just one less decision I have to make. And it
it's
sounds
easier.
stupid, but you think about how many decisions that guy has to make versus the average person. He's really
Yes,
going through it too. So they're for the rest of us, they may not be as world changing as some of the decisions he's making, but for our world, they still can be. So it's definitely something to take into consideration.
absolutely,
But I'm not going to be
absolutely.
wearing the same thing every day. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't have.
Yeah,
I don't have enough
I can't get
money or
there.
fame or good looks to be able to pull off wearing the same thing every day. So, you know,
Like,
I'll be in
I
different
can't quite
environments.
get there. I can't get there. But I will say I could stand to clean out my closet and,
There you go.
and stop staring at a whole bunch of stuff that I don't wear. So, I think we can all probably agree to that. But I think that's a great perspective. That if you don't have a good strategy, um, you are going to be left without a plan, and that is going to cripple you when it comes to making decisions. Because even as somebody, I am a decisive person for the most part. I'm not somebody who spends a bunch of time waffling over decisions and you know agonizing. For the most part, I'm a fairly decisive person. So for me to say that I get decision fatigue, um, at the end of a long week or at the end of a long day, for me, that says something,
Mhm.
because I don't have a problem making decisions for the most part. Um, but you're right, we do have too many options, whether it's at the grocery store or at, when you have an entire aisle dedicated to, salad dressing, which,
Like,
how
true.
many of those do you really need?
How many kinds of ranch can there possibly be?
I know, apparently 1,000. But, you
No,
know,
it's true. I mean, and if you're somebody who's not like my wife is not a very decisive person.
mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's really interesting, so we built two houses together. So we
Mm-hmm.
moved into the first one, new construction, and then we ended up
Oh,
selling
God
that
bless
one, and
you.
then we built new construction again. What we did during that process, because we learned this, when we were planning our wedding together, was that like just the unlimited amount of options stresses her out. And
Yes.
I always have this kind of generic stereotypical joke that I say the difference between men and women is this: men will go shopping for something and they'll be like, I found something that's good enough, and they'll stop. Women will go
Mm-hmm.
shopping for something and be like, oh, that's good enough, but there could be something better, and then they just kind of keep going, right?
And
That's
I'm the opposite.
and are you the opposite?
Like
Well, you're a very
my
decisive. And again, it's a
my ex-husband
generalization.
and I were like total opposites on
That's
those things. We're
hilarious.
like I fit all the male stereotypes of those kind of things, and he fit all the other ones. It was so funny every time we listened to people talk. We were like, yeah, we
Actually,
don't
just
fit
swap
those.
that for us. So.
Let's just swap that for us. But
But yeah,
yeah,
so
because
it
I'm one
was
of
the
those
same
people.
thing when we were going
No.
through with the housing stuff. What
Mhm.
actually helped her is I had a pretty good idea of what she wanted from a design perspective. So I would actually
Yeah.
go in first and I would, out of the unlimited amount of options, choose like 3 or 4 things max that were in line with whatever her vision was for the house. And then she would come
Hmm.
and pick out of those 3 or 4. And 90% of the time, she was happy with that. And then there was maybe only 10% of the time she's like, I really don't like any of the things you picked. Let's just go back to the drawing board. And then we would look.
Yeah.
But it really helped her because she is one to put off decisions. She doesn't make, she's very analytical, needs time
Yes.
to give me information, let me think and, let it soak in. And because of that in her personal life, it can cause a lot of stress because when it comes
Yes.
to, hey, so-and-so wants to make plans to do something, she can't just make that decision quickly. So she'll put it off for a little bit. And then all of a sudden her decision-making queue starts to really stack up. And she wakes up
Yeah.
2 days later and has 20 decisions she has to make. And it can be
It's
paralyzing
overwhelming.
for her sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're lucky. We still deal with it to a certain degree, but for other
Yeah.
people, it's like this is where it can become an even bigger issue that can compound
Yeah.
into a lot of stress.
Yes. And become paralyzing. Absolutely. So one of the things I know that, like you said, we've communicated back and forth on like LinkedIn and stuff. And one of the things that I love, you retired at 34, which I think is amazing. I at 34, I'd recently started like chapter 2 in my career. So I was like, I had moved from corporate to like I was in my nonprofit, moved to the nonprofit sector and had, um, you know, started a whole new phase in my career and experience, which I don't regret. But, I just, it wasn't on my radar that that could be an option,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So tell me a little bit about that. Like how did you decide that that was a goal? That that was something that could be done, and what kind of goals did you set to get there?
Yeah, no, great question. So I'll come out with this right out the gate. The retired at 34 is a slight bit of a gotcha statement. So I'll clarify it a little because I make it
Mm-hmm.
for this exact purpose. It's to have trigger these kinds of conversations.
Yeah.
So when it comes to wealth, the difference between being rich and being wealthy, in my opinion, is that rich really has to do with a dollar amount. It's a number.
Mm-hmm.
Wealth that is a component of wealth, but then there are other things that are involved with wealth. And a quick example I give on that is I would say if a person has $10 million in their bank account and no debt, so $10 million net worth, would you consider them rich?
Sure.
And the answer, pretty much, yeah, they're rich. But then when you consider that wealth is so much more than that, there's well-being behind it, time wealth. There's 4 types of wealth: time wealth, social wealth, financial wealth, and health wealth. Well, if I say
Mm-hmm.
this person has $10 million, but his wife is divorcing him, his children hate him because he works 120 hours a week, he's in poor health, has chronic health conditions because he's overworked and things like that, and has no time to enjoy life, would
Yeah.
you say this person's wealthy? And it really starts to change our definition a little bit there. So
Yeah.
what I really wanted for my life is that probably about I went through a really big event when I was 25. I had been married
Mm-hmm.
young, and then my wife ended up leaving me kind of out of the blue. And so hit rock bottom, did all these other things. And basically what ended up happening from there is for the first time in my life, I became so incredibly focused on what I wanted the next few years of my life to be because I had to rebuild from nothing. And I never
Yeah.
thought like that was going to be me. I was always the type A high performer. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
people like me don't hit rock bottom, do we? And we do. So
Unfortunately, yes.
yeah, I know. Unfortunately, apparently it happens. So that's that
Yeah.
invincibility complex when you're still young,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's where it really kind of started. And I just said, I'm going to make sure I'm never in this position again to where, it's one thing for one element of your life to go wrong, but for every
Mm-hmm.
single thing to go red, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
never going to be here again. Okay. I accept
Yeah.
that things will happen to me and there will be disasters in life. That is part of it. But I was like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to happen systematically because I just kind of ignored my situation and didn't take care of other elements of, those 4 types of wealth.
Yeah.
So bringing it all back to the retired at 34, that was kind of where at the time I didn't know it, but I started doing lifestyle design. And again, I called it lifestyle strategy. And the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration for that came from my job. I was working with C-level executives of these billion-dollar companies, and we were
Mm-hmm.
bringing in some of the smartest analysts and consultants in the world to help with this corporate strategy. And I just started after getting this master class for years in it going, that would actually be a good thing. I should apply that to my own life, actually. I should start doing this. And then when I
Yeah.
started doing that, I started seeing some incredible results in all aspects of my life. And then other people started asking me about it. And then I started coaching on it. And then it kind of became what it is now. But one of the things that I set out was that it wasn't a dollar amount in my bank account, because you can make $1 million a year, but if you spend $1 million a year, well,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
And
You're broke.
that is real scenarios. I know a lot of wealthy people who manage finances and all this other stuff, and the horror stories you will hear about people
Oh, yeah.
driving fancy cars and big houses. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's where I said, I'm not going to care anymore about the number that is in my bank account. What I care about now is how long can I live without my family bringing in any income? That's what I care
Hmm.
about. So
Okay.
when me and my wife took a step back and looked at it, and I was kind of done with corporate life, had done that, had an entrepreneurial itch, and my why was really more about helping people directly, and I wanted to do
Hmm.
something completely different. I told her, I said, "Are you good with me just taking a chance on this?" And when we looked at it, we said, we can live for the next 11 years before our bank accounts go to zero. And that's assuming everything stays the same. None of our investments go up, all this other
Yeah.
stuff in the next 10 years. We don't cut any expenses. Obviously, if neither of us were working, we would do that. But it's like the
Sure.
most radical situation. We keep all of our expenses high, exactly what they are. We can live for the next 11 years, maybe 10 and a half with inflation now. But,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was where the retired at 34 came from, because I
Wow.
have over a decade of time available to me,
Hmm.
whether or not I make another dollar. So that's how it all came out to be. It was never necessarily about making this money, kind of a thing to
Hmm.
do whatever. It was about, I want to live the life that I want, and I don't want to be shackled by money. So let's
Hmm.
design what that life is going to look like and figure out how much time we can give ourselves with, the assets that we have.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's an impressive place to get to at such a young age, even. I know most people struggle to get even, a few months ahead
Right.
in their life, in their finances.
Most
And,
people can't
and
cover a $500 emergency right now with cash. They'd have to use a credit
yeah,
card.
yes, yeah. So to get to the point where you have, years worth of living expenses covered is a huge, huge accomplishment. Um, is there a specific plan you used or something like that? Was it just aggressive savings, investment? Um, what did your plan look like for something like that?
No, it's a great question. So I just released a course. It's going through QA testing right now. Actually, people
Hmm.
can see it on the website. It's called
I saw
Design.
that. Yep.
And that is exactly what I've been coaching people on for the past 6 years, and what I've been using for myself. Now, what I
Hmm.
accidentally stumbled into when more people started asking me, I formalized that into a 7-step process.
Yeah.
So basically, what it is it just has the 4 elements of strategy. And those elements are and this doesn't matter if we're talking lifestyle strategy, if we're talking about battle strategy, if we're talking about business
Hmm.
strategy. Any form of strategy has to have these 4 elements. It has to have a
Hmm.
destination, has to have your starting point, where are you right now. Then there's the journey, and then you need milestones along the way to make sure you're tracking along the journey. So the number one thing I tell everybody, and you see this honestly with a lot of business owners, this is a huge mistake
Hmm.
that people make in business, is they actually flip the first 2 steps whenever they're making a strategy. They'll
Oh, okay.
begin with the starting point, and then they'll figure out
Hmm.
the destination next. Well, the problem with that is when you start with anything in life and you look at, how much money do I have? How much money did I make last year or the year before
Yeah.
that? What kind of bills and resources do I have right now? You're beginning from a place of kind of stuck, because the entire
Yes.
reason that you're trying to do this is to get somewhere you're not right now. And what
Yeah.
that inevitably ends up doing is creating some form of limiting belief on what you can
Hmm.
accomplish. So this is why it's highly recommended, in my personal opinion, completely essential, that if you really want to make fast strides in your life, you always start with the end. So you always begin with the destination. You go, where do I want to be in 3 years, in 12 months, whatever the case is.
Hmm.
And when you do
Hmm.
that, you don't give yourself the opportunity, as you are kind of dreaming with what that future state is going to look like, you don't
Hmm.
put those limiting beliefs out there and constrain that vision. Now, after you do that, you may look at your starting point and go, okay, I have a net worth of zero and I just said I want to make $1 million this year. That may not be realistic. That may be
Yeah.
too big of a
Yeah.
gap. But the point
Yeah.
is, okay, you start at 1 million. Okay, well, let's back it up. Could you do 100,000 this year? Whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. And both in business and in our personal lives, it's the exact same concept. So if you start with where you are, people will shoot a lot less higher and they'll say, well, I have a net worth of zero. Maybe I could get to 5,000 by the end of the year. And people just generally aren't as audacious with it. So
Yeah.
for me, going through that strategy and then having those 7 steps accelerated every single goal that I had in my life, personally,
Hmm.
professionally, and to the point that things would happen along the way that
Hmm.
just because I was doing the right things, it started to compound on itself.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons my second course, sorry, not trying to plug everything here, but
No, that's okay.
but I have 3 courses. The first one is foundation. The second one is momentum. That course
Hmm.
I'm really proud of because I haven't found much out there that's like it. And what it is I call it momentum because that's really what it's about. It's the principles of wealth building. And what I did is I
Hmm.
studied millionaires and billionaires when they were at the beginning of their wealth building journey. So not when they already had the money and how they got, went from 5 million to a billion. I wanted to know how
Sure.
these people go from zero to 250,000. What
Yeah.
got them there? And what you realize when you start studying them is that it's mathematical. It's very easy to repeat what they did. Mark Cuban
Hmm.
said one time, he said, if I lost everything and I had to start at zero today, he said, there's no doubt in my mind I would be a millionaire again. He said, a billionaire, I don't know. That takes luck and timing. He said, but a
Yeah.
millionaire, he said, there's no doubt in my mind because there
Yeah.
just takes doing a certain amount of things consistently and it's completely guaranteed that you will become a millionaire. The only
Hmm.
question is the time frame. And then that's where things play into the strategy. So
Yeah.
your point, for anybody out there listening and you're going, okay, Stephen, enough. How'd you do it? You're 30, 54. Sorry, I like to set the stage a little bit sometime and I'm from the South.
That's okay.
Long wind that blows through the South, as they say.
That's okay. And one, you've got classes too. So,
There. So the thing that I would say is this for anybody that's starting out, one of the most important concepts that you can study if you want to make money quickly is the velocity of money. This is something that
hmm
does not get talked about in regular circles. I had to start hanging out with millionaires before I ever even heard this term. And
hmm
velocity, for those of you who haven't seen Top Gun and understand what that word is exactly, it's speed plus direction. So
hmm
it's those two things combined. If you just are constantly bringing in money, that's great. But a lot of people who bring in a lot of money lose it pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why the richer people get, the more conservative they get on their investments because they want that velocity to stay up. They're not as worried so much about it moving up quickly as it is just keeping the direction the same.
Moving up
So
consistently. Yeah.
a lot of times one of the things that I say is terrible advice for the average person is getting 7 to 8% returns on the stock market. That is actually
hmm
terrible advice, in my opinion, dependent on your situation. Because if you're 50, 60, 70 years old and you don't have a lot of time horizon for your risk, okay, maybe
Sure.
we should start talking about that. But again, that's only valid if you already have some money, that is invested. If you
Yeah.
are 50, 60 years old and you're at zero, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to retire. So therefore, even though your time horizon's not great, you still need to be looking to make more money. So wherever you are, especially if you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you need to be looking for opportunities. If you have a low net worth, I would say under $100,000 net worth, you need to be
hmm
looking for opportunities to make 100 to 500, even 1,000% on your money. Now, a lot of people are sitting here going, okay, Stephen, what type of crypto scam are you about to plug right now where I can make 1,000%? Promise,
Right.
not gonna happen.
Right.
But what people don't realize is that, yes, it does 100% returns. Normally, if anybody promises you something like that, it's a Ponzi scheme. But if I go out and I take $100, what's 100% of $100? It's $200. Okay, so how could I turn a $100 investment into $200? Well, I could go out and buy a leaf blower, and then I could walk around and spend a little bit of time and energy, probably blowing off some people's driveways in my yard or in my neighborhood. And hey guys, I'll do it for $40 or whatever the case is. I did 5 houses, $200. I just made 100% on my money in an afternoon. It's a silly example. But another one I talk about all the time is I have twin daughters. We bought these $100 cribs. They're in great condition, a little scratched up, but we just, we painted them basically. They went from wood to white, used them for a year and a half, and then I sold both of them for $500. Well, I made $400 or 400% on these cribs. So when you start thinking about things in terms of percentages and not dollars, that's one of the biggest wealth building hacks I can give people, because it changes the way that you will look at things when you're making money early on. So that's the method, I guess I could say, without going through the entirety of what I did.
Going through your
I
whole
just
class,
started looking at every single thing I did and saying, what percentage of return, what ROI am I going to get on this?
I'm going to get on this.
Thinking about things in terms of percentages instead of dollar amounts, because you may say, I turned $5 into $20. It's not exciting. But I turned, I got a 400% ROI. Okay, well, that's exciting. So you start doing that, and then you just compound it with bigger and bigger amounts, and then that's how you build wealth quickly.
Yeah, that's great. And that's a great, I think, that's a great point too, of starting with the destination. Because especially, people who are entrepreneurial and, the so much of the time there's so much focus put on the beginning of the journey, because so much goes into starting a business and all that kind of stuff. And so there's so much focus put on where you already are as you're starting you're doing your business plan and you're filing your paperwork and you're doing your budget and you're all this stuff. You can lose sight of where you're trying to get to. And so I think that is a really key and a really good point, is to have that destination in mind, even while you're dealing with the I hate to say tedium, but a lot of it is, tedium of getting a business up and running.
I have a question for you, actually. I'm interested in your perspective on this. We're going to flip who's hosting now. So
there you go.
No, but one thing that I've been studying recently, and I actually have a personal experiment I'm doing on myself called the hot shot experiment.
Yes.
If you've seen the weird,
I've been watching. Yep.
Why does he have pictures of him on fire?
Nope, I've been watching.
So one of the things I've been studying recently is, why do humans change? And just as importantly, why don't we change? And that's the hot shot experiment. Is I came across these psychological studies about the power of an alter ego. And it was really fascinating to me. And then on top of it, I'm a big superhero fan. Spider-Man's a little bit out of the frame, but you kind of get the idea. Naruto,
I totally understand.
Anime junkies. So, So okay, there you. Oh, you like Naruto?
We're familiar in this household with anime and all of the things. Yes, I've been to anime conventions and Comic-Con and all of those
you're
things.
even further in than I found like. We're going to do a quick segue here. I found Dragon Ball, or I knew Dragon Ball Z when I was younger. That was pretty much it. That and Pokemon from an anime perspective.
Oh gosh, yes.
Over the pandemic, I discovered Naruto, and 100 episodes in, I'm like, hey, I don't have anything to do. We can't go anywhere. So it was great. Yeah. And we had our newborn daughters, so we weren't going to go anywhere anyway. We were strapped down.
Oh yeah.
And 3 kids under 3 in the pandemic was a whole different twist on things.
Oh my. Yeah. Yes.
But the good news
was, I had kids young.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my kids are older and they're into it.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's one of the dirty secrets about anime right now, is people don't understand how popular it is across pretty much every demographic right now. So
yes.
And the reason for that, and this will tie into my point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The reason for that is because I'm a big fan of media. I like movies, I
Hmm.
like TV, I like music, different things like that.
Hmm. Yes.
The reason I enjoy these things is because I'm a fan of story, and I
Oh gosh,
believe
yes.
in stories. Modern television and a lot of movies, they suck at telling stories. They're
Hmm.
not good at it. They have become obsessed with appealing to certain demographics,
Hmm.
identity politics, different things like that. And it's like, listen, you can do that in the
Yeah.
context of a good story, but if you're
Yes.
going to rely on that to carry, whatever movie, TV show you're doing, number one, it's not going to be funny, or it's not going to be dramatic, or not over the long span of things. So
Mm-mm.
I think the difference with, and then on top of it, this shift in what the priorities are, the morals of
Hmm.
these stories that we're going for are also completely different or watered down. And I
Yeah.
think with anime, what you find is that it's willing to dive into depth that modern
Yeah.
television in America just isn't willing to go to. Concepts like honor, like
Hmm.
legit betrayal, um,
Yes.
even just like what deep bonds of friendship look like.
Hmm.
Everything is so over sexualized. It's like if it's not a love story one way or the other, it's not worth exploring. And it's just like that's
Yeah.
not true. Like friendship is such an important thing. So anyway, that's why
Yeah.
I think that it has such a strong appeal to so many people nowadays, because there's just
It
such a
does.
gap in storytelling when it comes to those types of
There
things.
really does, and anime is willing to move slow with it too.
Oh, extreme.
Um,
Sometimes too slow.
Sometimes a little too slow. I was going to say,
Yeah.
I know
But
Dragon Ball
but
Z
they're
moves
willing
a
to
little
put the
slow for
time
me,
in. You're right.
but yeah, you're right. They go in depth into these things, which does mean sometimes they move a little slower, but it does. They put a lot of character development
Exactly. And then when you
into
find
it, so
out
you
about
don't have these shallow people that you don't care about. I mean, because let's
exactly.
face it, when in a bad story, you don't care what happens to the people.
Not at all. I mean,
You
some of
know?
I love the Avengers movies, right? But
Yeah.
then some of these new ones that come out, I'm like, I don't. They didn't take time to develop
Yeah.
these characters. They threw them in the middle of this
Mm-mm.
other movie and then made a spin off of it. I don't care
Yeah.
about the person. So
Yeah.
I totally agree. So tying that back, heroes
Yes.
into everything. The question I would have for you is the thing I always tell people when I'm working with them is that you are the hero of your story.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is coming to
100%.
save you. Nobody's going to come
Mm-hmm.
do this. Nobody's going to get you to, run that mile or do those push-ups or make that budget or,
Oh,
whatever the case may be. It's all on you. And,
yes.
I I still find it really interesting how people will become so comfortable with the pain that they are experiencing on a daily basis, the anxiety
Mm-hmm.
of not knowing if you're going to be able to pay your bills this month, the
Yeah.
stress that comes along with not knowing if you're going to get the job promotion that you really didn't do anything for other than work hard for. It's like there's a lot of things that you can do to control these things that people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize. And even
Yes.
when you tell them and give them the way to do it, they just don't, or they start and they
Mm-hmm.
fade out real quickly.
Yeah.
So that's what the hotshot experiment was for me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to tell people my experiences and how I do money because I've been doing this for over 14 years. It's natural to me
Sure.
at this point. So I made the hotshot experiment to challenge myself. I created a alter ego. You know,
Mm-hmm.
his name is Hotshot. No surprise. And he
Okay.
loves doing things that I hate doing. He likes to wake up at
Yeah.
5 a.m. He likes to run, and he likes to spend time punching. I got a kicking bag in there, and
Yeah.
I hate those things. I've never been able to do them in my life. I'm 36 years old. I'm a night
Mm-hmm.
owl. My parents were night owls, and I am statements are the most powerful statements we can make on ourselves. And that is what
Yes.
I have told myself all my life. I am not a runner. I am not a whatever.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. I'm a month in now and I'm running 5Ks every week
She's
and
awesome.
do hits on the bag, waking up at 5 a.m. as much as I can. And I'm a month in, and I can be completely honest about this. I am not excited about it, but I am looking forward to my runs more. It's really
That's
weird.
good.
So
That's great, though.
it is. I'm excited about it. So I have
Mm-hmm.
it's a 90-day challenge. We'll see what things look like at the end of it. I have no goals or expectations. I'm like, this is just what I'm going to do. See what happens. So all that being said, the super longest detour ever, back to the original question I had for you. A really great detour, though. If y'all aren't watching some Naruto, I'm telling y'all, you guys are doing yourselves a disservice.
You're missing out.
You're missing out. But what I would say is, or what I want to, in your interviews and in your conversations that you have with people, what are some of the things that you think prevent people from making any kind of positive change that they want to in their life?
So much of it is fear of the unknown, because you can get used to anything. And that's honestly, that's something I just learned in years and years and years of spent working with people who have complex trauma. You, even if what you know sucks and is horrible and abusive or whatever, it's what you know.
Right.
And so that fear of the unknown is huge for people. Even if it's an improvement, even if everybody else tells you if it's an improvement, if it's different, you step into it and it's different, you don't trust it. Just from a psychological perspective, it doesn't feel safe to you because you don't know what's coming.
I like that.
Yeah, you don't know what's coming. It's not, if you're in an environment that sucks, yeah, you know what to expect every day. It's going to suck.
And sometimes you'll do things to lie to yourself mentally to make it easier. Like, Stockholm syndrome is a perfect example of this. Right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
100%. But yeah, so making a change, even a positive change, a lot of times you stumble in those positive changes. I mean, I'm sure you don't always, you aren't always successful the first time out, or the second time out. And then that can be a reinforcement not to do it for somebody who's, stuck in a bad cycle. Well, I tried it. It didn't work. I'm not going to try it again.
You see this all the time. Any financial guru will agree on this one thing. There's a lot of, debate about different things and strategies I'm making all this other stuff, but every single person agrees with this. The first step to your financial foundation is a budget. Doesn't take long. It's not difficult, but you have to understand where your money's going, how much of it you have, what your expenses are, yada, yada. That's it. Everybody agrees on that. The number one reason that I see that people who actually do make a budget and then they don't stick with it is after a month or two, they're like, it just wasn't working. And I'm like, what do you mean it wasn't working? And they're like, well, I mean, I did my budget. I saw where our money was going. We tried to cut back and we just weren't we weren't meeting.
We couldn't make it work.
We were still spending too much, whatever. And so we just stopped. It just wasn't working for us. We're just not budget people or whatever. Again, another I am statement, right? I am not a budget person.
I'm not a budget person.
So what I tell people all the time is I just go, how many times in life do you start doing something new and get it perfect the first time?
Yeah.
Almost never. So, and if you do, it's probably something that's really easy. So the point of a budget, or the point of success with a budget, is not to do it and then make sure that, you spend every dollar exactly as you intended to. The point of a budget is to do a budget and to know.
Yeah.
That's success.
To learn from it.
If you overspend on what you were shooting for, that is success.
Yes.
If you underspend on what you were shooting for, that is success. And I think a lot of times with these goals, what people think is the intended point of success is actually the wrong thing they should be looking at. The point of the budget is knowledge and therefore power over your situation. It's not to make sure that I absolutely line things up mathematically perfectly.
That I have a zero-based budget every month.
The
first month I do it. Because that's not realistic. It's not realistic if you've been living without a budget.
No, it's not. So I love what you said. It's that fear of the unknown, getting into it and just, hey, I'm comfortable with how I got things.
Yeah. Making changes is hard. I mean, I'm sure you know that. I'm doing not a public, but doing my own kind of weight loss challenge with like an app that I have that like gamifies it, so you have to 4 days out of the week, I have to log like how many steps I've done or how much water I've drank or,
Oh, okay, that's cool.
all that kind of stuff. So it's more of a, journey that I'm doing for myself, but it makes like a game out of it and you can put money on it if you want to and,
Oh, that's
stuff
cool.
like that, which makes it kind of, steps it up a little bit. but,
I made a challenge with somebody one time, and I said
mhm,
they wanted me to do some coaching around some stuff with them.
mhm,
And it was actually about starting up a business. He's like, I want to start a business, and I said, okay, we'll do it, but you have to give me $1,000. And he goes, what? And I said, no, this isn't charges for my services because he had already paid me for that. And he was like, I
yeah,
already paid you. I said, no, you have to give me $1,000. And then he
mhm,
goes, okay, I will give you, or what am I giving you $1,000 for? And I said, if you don't file your paperwork for your business by this date, I'm keeping the money. Simple as that. All you got to do is file the paperwork. Go make the
yep,
logo. Those simple little things. That's all you got to do.
yep.
I'll give you your $1,000 back, but it has to be done by this day or I'm keeping it. Guess what? It got done.
I can imagine. Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
when you put money on things, it's a
it's
totally
totally
different ball
different.
game.
So yeah, hey, if you're somebody out there and you're stuck in your situation, you're crazy, and like, look, I'm going to do this no matter what. Go find somebody that you love and say, hey, here's $1,000. Hold it for me until this date, and if I don't get it done, you get to keep it. Trust me, they will be
Right,
happy to do that for you.
right. Or like you're doing, making it public.
Yes,
Um, because
absolutely.
the for a lot of people, and I don't know about you, but the public accountability
Mhm.
is a big thing. You don't want to get on there and say, you know what, I've given up.
Oh, no. Well, look, call me a masochist or whatever the case is, but I have decided that in my life, the thing that works best for me is to fight pain with more pain. It's the case. We become comfortable with the pain that we are, in whatever the
Hmm.
situation is that we're like, this is something that needs to change, but I just
Yes.
haven't changed it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that gets you out of that pain is creating a pain that's greater than the one that you're in now. And you're like, okay, now I have no choice but to address it. And
Yeah.
that's what I've done. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't believe that there's lazy people. I believe that the majority of people are actually not properly motivated. And
Yeah.
and people are like, I don't know about that. I go, okay, let's put it this way. If I told you, and again, you're not a runner, and I said, you need to get up on this super hot summer afternoon and you need to go run a mile. And you're just like, dude, I don't feel like it. I'm not a runner, whatever. Maybe I offer you $100. No, still don't feel like it or whatever. Okay. Now there's a bear in your living room, and that bear is
Yeah.
going to chase you and eat you if you do not run a mile. You think you're going to be able to handle it? I can pretty much
I,
guarantee you will die of cardiac arrest or you will finish that mile.
I was going to say, because I mean, it's right now, it is 102 outside. So, do I want to go outside and run? Absolutely not.
No. But you
Not
put that
even
bear in
for a
your living
hundred
room,
bucks. But you put that bear in my living room, he might catch me.
you, even if he's going slow, the point is you just got to finish that mile, right? That's
But
it.
I'm
It
going to
doesn't
get
even
there.
matter the speed. You just got to finish it. So it's just about the proper motivation. And,
It is.
people, I've heard extreme examples like, your kids, they're being held hostage. And unless you do this, they're not going to get free. It's like, yeah, they're crazy
Well,
hypothetical
yeah.
scenarios.
Yeah.
But if you really thought about it seriously, it's like, would you do it? Yes, you would do it.
Of
Okay, well,
course I'd
then
do it. Yeah.
that speaks to the barrier that is truly keeping you from doing it. It's just
Yeah.
desire.
It's obviously mental. Yeah.
Right. So
You know,
increase that pain threshold of not doing
yeah.
it beyond the pain threshold that you become comfortable with. And I believe you'll
Yeah.
start to see change in most situations. And one of
Yeah.
the pains that, was the point of me putting it out there onto
Hmm.
the internet and the social webs, it's not to go viral. The reason I did it is because of Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and some of the great athletes out there.
Hmm.
They hated the pain of failure more than they enjoyed the love of success. And they were more motivated when you listen to them talk about it. They were more motivated to win championships, especially after they won their first, because
Oh,
they
yeah.
hated losing more than they loved winning. So for me, the thing that's keeping me motivated to do this is I'm like, I don't want to embarrass myself. I mean, yeah, success is
That's,
important. I want to see the
yeah.
what's going on here. but I also just don't want to look like an idiot to thousands of followers that I have
Yes,
online. It's
exactly.
it's a little vain, but it works. So I mean, at the
That
end of the
no, that's
day, people are
exactly.
like carrot or stick. I'm like, do both.
Yeah. I want the reward, but I'm also afraid of the stick. So that's the reality. That is the
Somebody's
reality,
listening to this
especially.
going, this guy's off his rocker.
No, man. For somebody who's, I mean, I am a competitive person as well, so for me, yeah, that failure is something that's like, oh, I don't want that. I don't want people seeing that I failed or knowing that I failed. I don't want to feel like I failed.
Right.
Um, I was always a sore loser when I was a kid.
I think that's a great
So,
character trait, being a sore loser.
I never loved, never like, nobody likes to lose, but man,
Yeah, the
I think
last
I
thing I
took it
want to
from my
see, my
dad.
kids are a little too young for this, but the last thing I want to
Yeah.
see is them just being like, oh, yeah, we lost. I mean, whatever. It's like, no, no, no. I want to see tears,
It was
crying on the
bad.
sideline.
Exactly. I never did the whole like, friendly the sports where had my kids do the sports where they didn't keep score. I'm like, we're not doing that. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh yeah, no. My
I can't deal with that.
my girls are 3, so they're not in it yet. But my son, he's been playing either soccer or flag football for the
Hmm.
past 2 years. And first year, it was whatever. We kept score for
Of
fun and
course.
whatever. And then the next year, they're like, okay, we're keeping score. But towards the end of the second season, he really started, like, the first thing he would come off and ask is go, hey, we won, or oh, we lost. And there you
Yeah.
start to see reactions,
Yeah.
didn't just care about getting out and running around and playing. It's like
It's
he
part
cared
of
about the
life.
outcome. So I was like, okay, there we go. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's part of life. It's part of life.
Well, I think
Um,
I think to that point, I mean, when people are going through this stuff and they're going through trauma and difficult times, whatever that is, whether it's with your business and
mhm.
your personal life that is now affecting your business, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know, what advice do you give to people about dealing with failure, or at least the sense of failure?
I think understanding that everybody experiences it, whether they admit it or not,
Oh,
whether
that's
they
great.
put it out there or not, um, everybody experiences failure and that it is traumatic. I mean, that it's okay to admit that this hit you. Because I have experienced, a few years back I was working for an organization and I experienced, what I felt was a tremendous failure, and it was shameful to me, and I felt like it was professionally embarrassing, and it was one of those things so I try to explain to people. I'm like, this is not something that nobody else knows what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
People go through this. They don't necessarily always talk about it, but it is something people go through, and it's okay for you to like grieve because
Yeah,
it's
no,
traumatic.
that's important.
um, to understand that whether it's a job loss or a failed business or whatever it is, you're gonna be sad. You're gonna be sad, and you're gonna be angry about it, and you're gonna probably be a little depressed about it, and that's normal. So let yourself work through it. Um, a failure is while it's part of life, and there are people who will tell you to dust yourself off and pick yourself up and try again. That's, of course, try again, but um, also be a little easy with yourself, and let yourself recover from it, and process it and learn, and then once you've done that, learn what you can from it. You know.
I think I think that's such a great point, especially in the concept of business. I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times what you see, I work with a lot of people that are kind of at beginning stages with their businesses and things like that. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times you can get the all the hustle porn that's out there and never give
Oh
up,
gosh, yes.
whatever the case is. And
Yep.
there's an element of that yeah, you kind of do need those
You
motivational
do.
messages
You
at
got to
times. It's
work.
hard.
Yeah.
But then there's also times to go that, listen, you just had a bad idea. That this wasn't the
Yeah.
business. It's not working out. You can't sell it for whatever reason, and you need to walk away from this and start over,
Yeah.
and or reevaluate if you even should be doing this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is really hard for people for a lot of the reasons you just said. It's like, that is professionally and personally embarrassing. It's like, who's going to want to hire
Yeah.
me after I failed at my business?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot, the most dangerous, I think the most dangerous place you can be at in a business is you've started something that requires so much time and energy that to just get barely profitable, that you think that, oh, if I just put more time and energy into it, even though you're already maxing out at 80 to 100 hours a
Yes.
week to make it barely
Yes.
profitable, you think, oh, if I just do a little bit more, I can get a little bit more profitable. And it's like, you're making $40,000 a year,
Yeah.
after taxes, working 100
Killing
hours a
yourself.
week. I don't think that's what you're looking for as far as an ROI on this.
No, life,
And I
that's
think
not the
that's
lifestyle.
exactly. I think that ROI, that I can't give up. I can't do this. I can't let go. I started this. I have to finish it. I have to, be successful. And it's like, hey,
Hmm.
you're right. You do need to be successful, but maybe what you need is to redefine what success actually is.
Yeah.
You're ignoring so many other aspects of your life just to sell this thing.
Yeah.
Is that success? So I think that's something that a lot of people, have to reckon with, because it's
Yes.
starting a business
I
is
made
not
the
for
wrong
everybody.
call.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
hard. And
Sometimes it
even if
is. Yeah.
even if
Then,
you are somebody who should have one, you might fail 2, 3, 4, 5 times before you find the one that really works out. So
yeah,
you just never know.
100%. Yeah, this is not my first business.
Yeah, same here.
I'll say that. And, um, the one of the ones it was something that, like, I could have put more time into it and made more money, but I was like, this is not what I want. This is not what I want to spend all my time doing, just to get a little more profit out of it.
Yeah. Same
So
for me. My
yeah.
first business, I actually co-founded it with a cousin of mine, and we
Hmm.
were cleaning. I was primarily doing like strategy and providing the funding, and then he was out
Hmm.
actually doing operations because I had my 9 to 5, and
Yeah.
we were looking at it from a 5-year horizon. Unfortunately, we started in 2019, had 2 different recessions, COVID shut down, all this other stuff. So it was some
Fun.
tough
Yeah.
sledding, but I was proud of the fact that we got through it. But regardless, when I look back at it, I sold out. I, sold the rest of my shares to him when I was ready to start this one, and I quit corporate. I made
Yeah.
some money, but
Yeah.
over the course of those 5 years, the amount of time and energy I put into it for the $60,000 return I got, I mean, it equated to
Yeah.
like $12,000 a year. Was that worth
Yeah.
it? I mean, I made
Yeah.
money, but no, it wasn't worth it.
But no.
Now, I would
Yeah.
argue I enjoyed it. I loved being in business with my cousin. It was great. It was a great
Yeah.
learning experience for me from a business perspective.
Exactly.
So there were things
Exactly.
outside of the monetary value that really impacted me coming into this one. But still, if we're just looking at it from a hard numbers, pure ROI perspective, $60,000 on I think it was a $35,000 initial investment, something like that. Yeah, I don't really know
Not
if
so
that was
much.
worth it. So,
Yeah. No, I get it. Yep. That's, you live and you learn, um and yeah, and like I said, you recover and say, okay, maybe I made a bad call, and we'll try again. once I'm once we're ready. That's okay. That's totally okay to
the thing
do.
I find is, if in your life, don't wish for it, but expect it.
Yeah.
Just expect you're going to fail. If you
Yes.
expect it, it doesn't take away the sting completely, but it
No.
definitely dampens it a little bit once it hits. It's like, well, okay, yep,
Okay.
definitely failed on that one, but you know what? It's going to happen.
That one's out of
So,
the way.
yeah,
that
exactly.
that
That
failure's
one's
out of the
out of the
way.
way. Just
On,
notch that one
on
off
to
the
the
belt
next
and
one.
keep moving.
Let's keep moving till the next one comes along.
I love the callous attitude towards it. I mean, you have to, right? If you failed enough and you can look at it and you be like, hey, I'm
you
still
know,
standing, you can laugh or cry. Take your
exactly.
pick.
Still moving forward. Moving on. It
Good.
is what it is, and moving forward and trying new things.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
it.
know, it hadn't knocked me over yet. So at least not that I haven't gotten up from. So
It's the old
that's
Japanese
what
adage. I love
matters.
it. It's super simple. It's just fall 7, rise 8. There you go.
Yep. Exactly. Well, that's awesome. I've so enjoyed having you on the show today. This has been such
Uh,
a great
this
conversation.
has been a fantastic
Um,
conversation. Definitely not. when I get on other podcasts is coming from the more personal, traumatic side of things.
Hmm.
Like, don't get to talk about some of these topics in this kind of frame as much. So this has
Yeah.
been an absolute pleasure. I love, like I said, I think your podcast is great, and
Thank you.
for people listening out there, I have very little doubt that you will continue to impact them in great ways. This has been a great experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have Stephen's website in the notes for the podcast. So if you're interested in learning more about his courses or just about him in general, following him on his hotshot journey, because it's pretty cool to see,
It's
just
different.
what
I'll
he's
give it that.
doing. And it's, hey, you know what? Everybody loves something different. Then yeah, I'll have all that on there. So thank you again, Stephen. This is Desiree Parker, and this has been Empower Together. Thank you, and see you next time.